Okay, so the very first thing that you're going to do anytime you want to submit one of these different forms, either your community profile or your KPIs, is you're going to come to the Build On website, buildon.org, and then /staff resources. So this will be the URL, and after this training, I'll send out an email to you all with all these different links and resources. But to get to these two different forms, you can get here by the staff resource page. And it may be a best practice to, when you come to the staff resource page and open it once, to just bookmark the community profile form on your browser or whatever you're using, and to bookmark the KPI form as well. So that might just be a good way that you can access them, so you don't always have to come back to the staff resource page.
Eric, can you show us one more time how to do a bookmark? Because I think some of us maybe don't know how to do that.
Yeah, definitely. So you can do a bookmark, and it depends on what type of browser you're using. Here I'm using Google Chrome, and there's just an easy star on the URL header bar here that you can click, and that'll create a bookmark. And in other browsers, you might have to click on Settings and go to Bookmarks, and then you say add bookmark. There's going to be different ways, but usually there's a quick button just starring it or saying add bookmark to be able to add a bookmark.
I think it's is that our Haiti staff? I think that just joined.
Yep.
Well, welcome, Haiti staff. Please find your mute buttons. Isak, can you please find your mute button too?
I'll just go ahead and mute them for now.
Thank you.
And so when you go to the staff resource page, the very first time you visit it, if you haven't visited it before, it's going to ask you for a password. And so when you go to it, the password bar is going to pop up, and that password is build 2014 on. And again, I'm gonna send this out into an email so you'll have easy access to it. But the first time you visit this page, you're going to be prompted, or a field's going to come up to allow you to enter that password. And that password is build 2014 on. And again, I'll share that with you all. So once you've got access to the staff resource page and you've clicked on the link, the first form we're going to go through is the community profile. And when you're filling out a community profile, what this community profile does is it creates a record for this village or for this community for us in Salesforce. And that creates a record that not only you are all using to submit your KPIs and updating on the village information, the school construction, all those different details. That's also the first time we're creating that record, so other parts of your organization are working with it. So the Trek team is going to use that same record when we start working with the different Trek groups that are going to come to that village to build the school. And also it's going to create that record for the development team. So those Trek groups that are potentially coming to that village, we're going to link it back to all the donors and funders that are fundraising to build that school and working with that village. So you creating this record, submitting this, is starting a big chain of events across all of Build On and connecting it to all the different ways, the different departments and different ways that Build On interacts with this community. And you creating this is the very first time that this record is created. So it's very important, and you creating it has a big impact on the rest of what we're doing with Build On for this community. So the very first time you come to fill out a community profile, you only have to fill out a community profile once for a village, just the first time that you fill it out and create it. There are a lot of questions on the community profile, as you can see. And so if you don't have enough time to come and fill it all out at once, you can click this button here at the top and it can save your progress and you can come back and finish. So if you've started the form, you can put in your email address, put in just a password for you to be able to get access to the form, and then you confirm the password again. So you'll put in your email address, a password, and then confirm that password and hit save. And that will send this record to your email address, to your email account. And you'll be able to click on a link and log back in and resume your progress on this record. So if you don't feel like you have enough time to fill it out, or you get caught up in something while you're filling it out, you can click this save progress and resume later button, and it'll let you come back and resume your progress on this form. And so I'll do that once we start filling this out, and I'll show you what that looks like. So the very first field you're going to fill out on the community profile is your office. And so that's going to be the country that you're located in. So if you're in Senegal, you'll go in and you'll find your name from the Senegal staff dropdown. And so that just lets us know who created this community profile record. So we know who's submitting the data and who we can, ask questions to. Or when we send this data back out to you, the different reports and whatnot, that'll also help us know that you're the person that filled it out. You're the person that should be getting that data for this community profile. So I'm going to fill this out as if I were Abdullah in Senegal. So after you put in your staff information, you're going to start filling out the basic village information. So these details are for you personally, the staff. Everything else is related to the actual village. So again, the country is going to be Senegal. What day is the ground break scheduled for? So what day are you breaking ground on this school in this village?
Eric, what if they don't know what ground break? Sometimes we will do community profiles, and for whatever reason, sometimes we don't even build those schools. So what if we just think it's going to be sometime in February? Should they just pick an estimated day, or can they leave it blank?
I would pick an estimated day just so we have a date in there. But that doesn't mean that we can't come back and update it. So if we get a more firm date, we can always come back and change that. And definitely, I can make this form change that you can be able to come back and update information like that after you put in after you put in the village name. So just to clarify, for the ground break, if you don't have a date, put in an estimated one. And again, we'll have a way that you can come back and update that if you need to. And then the second question is, what is the name of the village or community? And this is important because this is really the way that we're going to interact with this village across Build On. So put in the official village or community name and make it so it's something that is understandable and usable across, development, Trek groups, all those different people that might be coming to this community or working with this village. This is just explaining.
Wait, hold on just a minute, Eric.
Yep.
One thing I want to be, just to clarify this, it's really important that you guys are thoughtful about the name, because it has to be spelled correctly. We can always go in and change it, but I know sometimes when we initially submit a profile and then when we start KPIs, the name of the village or the spelling sometimes changes dramatically. So whatever you enter here, it would be great if that's the actual spelling of the village and the actual name of the community.
Thanks for clarifying, Roseanne. So the next question is just explaining what that village or community name means. And so far, the ones that have been submitted, you've done a good job of telling what that means, but really just describing where this village name came from, what the root of that word is, what it means. The next question is how many people live in the community? And we're looking for a number here. So if it's 123, put in 123, put in the actual number. And the GPS coordinates, we have a guide here to show you what that looks like. And this is just a sample. But what we're asking for there are the actual GPS coordinates for where the school is going to be located. And again, if you don't have that data, don't feel like you have to enter it. And if you get that at a later date, we can always come back and update that again too. And again, I'll show you how we can do that. When was the community founded? And again, that's just the year. So if that is 1948 or 1999, whatever that date is, put in just the actual year for when that community was founded.
In case there's no date.
In case there's no date, you can go ahead and just leave that blank.
Okay.
Good question. And so these next questions are all set up based off of the country you select for the village. And so you'll see here, these are all specific to Senegal. But if I were to change this to say Haiti, notice how the questions change. So it's very important to select the country because that's also going to decide what questions you are asked for this community profile. And so for Senegal, the first question is what ethnic groups are in the community, and you can select multiple here.
These are Burkina Faso.
Yeah, if it were Burkina Faso, again the same ethnic groups we have for.
I think we've got to change those because those aren't the correct ones for Senegal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I made the notice. So.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
And a mistake in my name. My last name is Jen.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. Okay.
Great. We'll find a way that you can submit those changes to us and let me know what those different things are. And so again, once we get that corrected, Senegal will be right. The second one is religions, and again, you can select all the different religions that are represented in that community. Where is the community located? And that's going to be a region. And again, that's specific to the country. How far is it from the main road? And that's, again, a number. So number of kilometers from the main road. How many kilometers is it from the build-on office? And again, that's a number. Type of crops grown. And again, this is a select all sort of option. How all the different crops that are represented in the village. What do community members do in this village or community to generate income? And again, these are all the different ways individuals in the community generate income. The next is how did Build On learn about this community? And we have some options in here for how they Build On learned about it, but you can also select other. And when you select other, you can actually type in your option. So if your option isn't represented here, so if it wasn't, the mayor's office or another NGO, you can select other and type in how you heard about it or how Build On heard about it. Then we ask who are the male leaders in this community and who are the female leaders in this community. And you can just go ahead and type in their names there for all the different leaders of both male and female.
And it's also helpful if you give a little explanation, and everybody has been doing this. The male leader or the female leader is, you can say her name, and then, if she's a leader of a specific group, or if the male leader is a chief. So give a little description there. I know you guys always do, but just please continue to do that.
And then moving on is the next section is information specific to the school. So this first section was all the information specific to just the community. Now we're moving on to the school. So what type of school is in the community currently? And, they could have multiple schools or just one. Is it a government primary school, government middle school, or other? And if it's other, again, you're able to type in what that type of school is. How many grade levels are offered at the school currently? And you can go in and select how many grade levels are currently offered at the school. How many students are currently enrolled in the school? And again, this is a number. So is that 45? Don't type in 45. Actually put the number itself in. How many boys?
Eric, they shouldn't be writing 45 students either, just the number 45.
Right. Yep, exactly. And the form actually won't allow you to do that. It's just looking for a number, but just a heads up so you don't have to go back and correct your mistake. Any of these ones asking for a number or an amount, we're looking for that actual number. You don't need to put in 45 students. Just 45 will work, or whatever that number is. And the same with all these other different number fields. So how many boys, that's an actual number. How many boys are in the school? How many girls are in the school? Number of proper classrooms which are suitable for learning in the school, and number of temporary classrooms, rustic classrooms in the school. The last number one is number of teachers in the school. And where do the teachers come from? The community, outside the community, or both? And who pays the teacher's salary? Government or other? And you can type in what that other source is if there is one. Has the government promised to supply additional teachers after the construction is finished? This can either be a short answer, but if there's a reason for why or why not the government has promised to supply teachers after construction is finished, you can explain that here. So it doesn't just need to be yes or no, but if you have details here, go ahead and explain the reasoning behind that decision. And the same here. Are there plans to increase the number of grade levels after the school is finished? You can put in yes or no, but again, if you have more details on that decision, you can go ahead and enter those details for why that decision was made. How far must students walk if they want to reach a school with proper classrooms which are suitable for learning? Again, you can put in a number here, but you can also explain the walk, explain the details for how far a student must walk. Who has donated the land on which the school will be built? Again, you can put in who that is, but if you have any more details for that decision, again, go ahead and give those extra details. Are there other compelling reasons why we should build a school in this community? Again, this is just an open-ended question for what other reasons a school should be built in that community. The next section is interviews. And there's a section here for both a boy student and a girl student. And they're the same questions, but this is information that we're using for a lot of different sources for marketing, things like that. So if you have this information, it's important that you enter it. And this is the name of the boy or girl, their age, and again, that's a number, their grade in school, and again, that's a number. So if they're 12 and they're in grade 6, their favorite subject. And this is open-ended. I didn't put in a list for you to choose from, but is that math? What is that? You can type in that subject name. And when they finish school, what would they like to be? Do they want to be a teacher? Do they want to be a doctor? You can put in what they want to be. If they give you an actual sentence or a description for what they would want to be, it doesn't have to just be one word. If they explain to you what they would like to be, you can put in that full description here. Does the child or an adult nearby know if the boy's parents ever attended school? Yes or no? And if yes, we ask, what grade did until what grade did the mother attend school? And again, that's a number. So if they attended till grade 8, and again, the father, you can enter in what grade they attended till. If you enter no here, then we don't ask those questions. But if their parents did attend school, we ask these different questions for when they attended school till. And the details are the same for either a boy or a girl. It's the same questions that are asked. And then that is the result of the form. There's no other sections. And what this last section is here for, we just ask you to verify your response and just type in what is in that box. And what that allows us to do is keep like submissions that aren't actual submissions from being entered. So this just kind of shows that you're human and that someone is coming in to fill out this form. And again, you just copy what those letters are in that box and then hit submit. But I'm actually going to go back up here and show you what that looks like when you save your progress and come back. So I'm going to type in my email here and put in a password. Oops, I typed that in my email, sorry. And then I'm going to hit save. And what this will do is it'll save your response. And you can already click the button to say resume this form now and jump back into it and start working on it again. But at the same time, it's going to send you an email. And so if I go to my inbox here, I'm going to get an email that says your response to International Programs Community Profile has been saved. And what this will do is it'll send me the link to go right back into that form. So if I click this link that has been emailed to me, it'll take me back to the community profile. And all I'll have to do is enter in my email address and the password that I entered for that form. And you can see it takes me back right where I started. So if you haven't been able to, like you started working on it and you haven't completed it yet, you can save your progress, send it to your email address, and you can get back to your form via the email that was sent to you by clicking on the link within that email. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and resume this form and hit submit. And it's going to let you, when you hit submit, it's going to let you review your different responses. So all your different responses here are in bold. And you can see I didn't fill out very much on this form. But if you need to make a correction, so you've looked through to review your responses, you can click this button to make a correction, and it'll take you back to your form, and you'll be able to update whatever you need to update. But if you've gone in and made that correction, you can come back down and hit submit. And it'll tell you whatever errors that you have or whatever problems that you have on the form before you submit. And that's all that needs to be done. Once you filled out all the fields, if you resumed your progress and came back, you've reviewed your responses and submitted, that's all you need to do in order to submit a community profile. So before we jump into the KPIs, I'll just pause and open it up to any questions any of you have about a community profile, anything that I just showed you, or in your use of it so far, if you've had any problems or any issues, any feedback or concerns, ways that we can make it better, or ways that it will work better for you, go ahead and ask your questions now. And again, we'll have questions open at the end of the session too. But if you have any questions about the community profile, you can go ahead and ask them now.
Hello, Eric.
Hi.
So Francois speaking. So before we move on, I just want to ask a question because I don't see here like track information in.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm
He's
here.
saying there are some questions specifically about Trek, and we didn't see them here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went ahead and just removed those Trek specific questions because it seemed like it was holding up a lot of your work in order to submit this, and it was keeping you from submitting it. So I can add those back in if that's what we want to do. But if you look at the Trek questions, there are quite a few questions for Trek, and so you can see there's about it looks like 45 different Trek specific questions. So if we're comfortable in submitting all that data, I can go ahead and add those back in. But when we first launched the forum, there was a lot of problems with submitting it because those questions were holding people up. So we can go ahead and add those back in if everyone feels like they're comfortable using those Trek questions.
Well, I think there should be an option that says, will this community be used for Trek?
Okay.
And they can say yes or no. And if it says no, then none of those questions would pop up. You know, for example, in Senegal, they don't have Treks for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would make sense. Mali isn't having Treks for the most part this year. But I know that our Trek team wants that information.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and add those back in, and we can just add a question for whether or not there's going to be a Trek in that village this year. And if there isn't, then they don't need to go ahead and spend all that time filling out those Trek specific questions.
Great. Good observation, Francois.
Yeah, great.
Okay,
great
thank you.
question. Are there any other community profile specific questions or feedback?
Eric,
Hi.
how you doing? Do you have a chicken there? Yeah, my question is, now I would like to know if there is a way we can access the information once it's submitted.
Yeah.
If you want to come back, for example, you know, for some purpose, you know, is there any way we can access it?
That is a really good question, and we're going to go over that here after I show you how to use the forms. We have all the reports and everything set up, and we're going to be able to be sending those to you on a regular basis. So when you think about, and I'm going to pull up some samples here just for a second, but we'll jump back into them. If you're familiar with your enhanced KPIs, so this is an example of your enhanced KPIs for a specific village. You're going to get this report sent to you on a weekly basis to show you all the different KPIs for the school or for the village and all the different metrics that you're tracking for an enhanced KPI. You're also going to get sent to you the summary, the overall summary. So if you're looking across a country, so if we're looking at Malawi here, you're going to have all of your different villages or communities listed and all your different numbers listed out. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in Salesforce, but we can discuss how often you want to receive those two different reports for your country or for the communities that you're working with, whether that's on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. We can have those sent out to you to access all that data. So, very good question.
Can you guys please find the mute? Because Eric can't mute you during the question and answer part because then he won't know if you have questions. but there's tons of background noise coming from different computers. So please just find the mute button.
Hi, Eric.
Hi.
Yes, this is Abdullah from Senegal. The country director will need to control the data sent it by their staff member. For example, about the community profile, can we have a way to see what, for example, Francois sent about community profile from Senegal from my computer, for example, as a country director? Is it possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what you're asking is not all the time, you're not going to be the only person filling out a community profile. So you want to know what your staff is also doing. And so the reports that we will send you, and Roseanne and I can get this set up for each country and decide what the standards are, but you can get just data sent to you for each one of your staff. So it can be a summary of what each one of your staff members are doing, both with what they've submitted for community profiles and for their KPIs and all the different metrics that we're tracking. So if you look at this report, when this gets sent to you, this can be specific to a school or a village or a country, but it can also just be specific to one staff member or to a group of staff members. So we can get all of these different numbers and not just have it be related to a village, but it can be related to what are the KPIs that your specific staff member is responsible for. And again, we can have those emailed to you on whatever regular basis you want, and you can decide how you want to share that with your staff out in the field, or your different staff members, to share that data with them or not share it with them. You'll be managing them and decide what you want to share with them. Does that answer your question?
Hello,
Hi.
this is Suze from Haiti. My question is, could we have this form, because we have an old form here in Haiti? Could we have this new form to go with in the communities that we will visit?
Yeah, Eric, what she wants is because she wants to have something where they can record it in the village and then come back and enter it. So just like a printout.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And also, Johnny, Haiti, who is responsible to fill out this form?
Well, that would be the country director who would tell you who is responsible for community profiles. I know in some countries it is the TREC coordinator who does it. In other countries it is the country director. In other places it might be the field coordinator responsible for that school. So that's something that has to be managed by the country director.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Eric, so is it easy for us to get like a printed out version of this form for each country, or is that difficult because some of the things are kind of contingent on other answers?
Yeah, that's where we'll have to figure out the best solution. I am working with the people who provide this service, and we're working on the offline option to be able to have access to this form offline, and whenever you get internet access, to be able to just submit it too. But we could also create just offline forms, like maybe an Excel document with all the different questions that you can do out in the field, and we can have it set up where either you just email me that Excel document, or you can come to this community profile and enter in your responses too. So right now we don't have the perfect solution for when you have to go into the village and you don't have access to internet or to a connection or anything. But we'll have some sort of solution here for you soon, whether that is being able to access these forms offline, either on your phone or a tablet or your computer, or having just a paper copy like an Excel document that you can come in and fill out, and when you come back in from the field, you can either send that to us or just enter your responses into this form when you have access to a computer.
I think the form is almost the same as the old Word document that you have been using, Suze. So there might be some more details here, but it's basically the same as the Word document. So if we continue, I think if you use that Word document, I think it's fine for now.
Yeah, and again, we're working on it, the offline option too. So hopefully we can get you an offline option here in the near future.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not, it's kind of different from the last version, but you just when I was filling it, I was just writing the new line on the last version, and I just print it and go with it to the village and come back and just fill out the form. It's much easier.
Okay, so what would you print out? The old Word document, or you would print it from the internet, from this?
No, the old one, but I will just add some information about like the new one. Yeah, I just printed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you did have to add a few things.
Yeah, a few things. Yeah, from the new one.
Okay. Oh, good. Thank you, Francois.
So before we move on, are there any other community profile questions? And again, you can always email me any problems or concerns that you have with this form, or any feedback. It's definitely appreciated. And again, we just want to get it to work the best for you. And one option that we do have on this form, if it's at all a problem, we can also translate it for you for each country too. So for example, in Senegal, if you want it to be in French, we can have you click a box and switch it over to the form being in French as well. So that's just one example, but if we do want it set up in specific languages, if that's easier, we can do that for you as well.
Eric, please.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, yeah, I can hear you.
So it's Amos Ihidi. We have a question for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the file, we haven't seen the questions about some disease in the community, so the staff can. So if we can have some question about before we go at the community to ask what kind of disease people are suffering with. So and the distance from the office to the community, we haven't seen anything about it.
There is.
Yeah, the distance from the office is this question, and it's set up for each country. So let's look at Haiti. Yeah, so how many kilometers is it from the main office? But that's good feedback on the disease question.
I think that question is in the Trek questions.
Yep, it is. Yep. So I'll add those back in, and you'll have all those different questions available to you. So sorry about that it's not included right now.
Please, Eric.
Yep.
Yes, as Francois said, he used to print the old form in order to fill out, and in the office he sent the cell force by computer. I would like to know what kind of cell phone we can use in order to send the cell force directly from the field.
You can use any phone that you can get on the internet with. So if you can go to a website on your phone, you can access this form.
Okay.
So if you can go into your web browser and type in if you have a web browser on your phone, and you can go in and put in a URL like this, then you can get access to the form. So as long as you have a web browser on your phone or your tablet, and you have connectivity, you have a network connection, you can type in this and get access to the form.
Yes, I ask you this question because here in Senegal, for example, we have so many kind of phone, and all the one that can connect to internet, but the screen is too small. I don't know if it is possible with this kind of phone to open this API's form. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll open it still. It'll just be maybe more difficult to if the screen is really small. It'll just be more difficult to read. So that's more your preference. If you're able to fill it out on a smaller screen, the form will let you do that. But again, if you have like these longer questions where you're putting in more descriptions, it might be harder to fill out on a really small screen or an older phone that doesn't have an easy keyboard to use. So it's really up to you on if you like how that looks on that phone. Or waiting to use a computer when you have access to a computer.
And one of the things that Eric was talking about is that he's trying very hard with the company that works with this to create a special form that is available without being on the internet. So, we have a few tablets in international programs, and that screen is much larger. But if that tablet is not connected to the internet right now, we can't use it for this form. But in the future, we're hoping that you can have that tablet and the form would be on there and you don't need connection to the internet. And then just later, when you have connection to the internet, you can submit it. So Eric's working on that. We don't know when it's going to be ready, but I think that will make things really easy because then you don't have to print things out. You don't have to enter it in paper and then put it on a computer and do double the work. So that's definitely on Eric's radar, and he's working on the technology with the company. So hopefully it will happen. We just have to be patient.
Thanks.
And then we need to buy a bunch of tablets, which is another issue, but we'll figure that out.
And Rosanna, we're coming up to an hour here. I don't know if everyone I'm okay to keep moving on as long as we need to, but I didn't know if people have to jump off at a certain time.
Well, we're used to longer meetings in IP.
Perfect.
So if anybody does need to get off the call, feel free, and then you could watch the video later. But, we have 4 or 5 countries represented on the phones. That's a pretty good group. So let's continue if you can, Eric.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to KPIs. And if any of you have any questions or feedback for the community profile, just feel free to email me. And I'm going to send an email after this training with a link to the video and all the different things that we talk about here. Feel free just to email me any questions or feedback that you have about any of these forms or any of these processes. So we're going to move on to the KPIs. So you get to the KPIs by, again, coming to the staff resource page, going under IP and clicking on KPIs. And once you do that once, you should be able to bookmark the KPI form and come back to it when you need it. So the KPI form works the same as the community profile, where you can save your progress and come back later. But the KPIs aren't it shouldn't take as long as the community profile to fill out. The first question we ask again is just who you are, who's filling out this form. And so we'll go back to Abdoulaye in Senegal. And again, so this is just who you are, who's filling it out. And then we get into the specific details about the community that you're working with, that you're submitting the KPIs for. So first we ask the country again. And then we have you select the community name. And it's just in alphabetical order for all the different communities. And this list is going to get really long soon, so I'm going to get this cleaned up. So once you select your country, only communities within your country will show up. You won't have to go through all the different countries to find your community name. But the key thing to know about these community names, the way that these get added to this form, the KPI form, is by you submitting a community profile. So if a community profile has not been submitted for the community that you're submitting a KPI for, then it won't be on this form. When you submit the community profile, it gets added to this list for you to choose from. So in order for you to submit a KPI for a community, you first have to submit a community profile for that community in order for it to show up here and for you to be able to submit. So you select your community name, and then we ask you a series of different questions. Is this your first time filling out the form for this school? So is this the very first time you've submitted a KPI for this school? And if so, we ask you some different questions down below. If not, then those questions get removed. Has the covenant been signed?
Can we say yes, Eric?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, the first time. Yeah, let's do that
leave them all
because
open.
I think those are some questions that weren't really so great before.
Okay. And then has the covenant been signed? Yes, we'll go ahead and say that. Do you need to add members from your project leadership committee? So anytime you fill this out, you're able to add in more PLC members, project leadership committee members. If you want to add more PLC members, as you enter in more KPIs, you'll select yes here. Is the construction complete? Yes or no? You only select yes if the construction is actually complete. Is finishing completed? Yes or no? And when you say yes to either one of those questions, it asks for those dates. So if construction is completed, a calendar gets pulled up for you to select a date for when construction was completed. If finishing is completed for the school, the same thing, you're able to go ahead and enter in that date.
Eric,
Yeah.
excuse me. When you mean construction is completed, do you mean like the walls?
Yeah, I can answer that, Eric. That, we changed it and we got more specific, Aline, because people used to put construction was finished when everything was done except for painting.
Yeah.
And then there was a problem because our development team wanted photos within 5 days, but they were expecting photos before the school was actually finished. So I think, Eric, we can even change this because now we've totally changed our definition of completed construction. That really means when the entire school is totally finished. So I think we should remove that because that's like old language that we were using when we were trying to change the definition. So I'll email Eric separately with that. That's a good question, Aline. So just so everyone knows, when we say is construction finished, that means the school is 100% finished and painted, the logo's on, and you are ready. The kids are ready to be in there, and you could take a final photo.
Thanks for that.
And we can put in hints on here too, explaining what these are as well. So what does finishing actually mean? What does it mean when finishing is completed? We can put that in there.
Yeah, we don't even need that differentiation anymore. So I'm making notes, Eric, and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Thanks, Aline, for bringing that up.
Pleasure.
So the general information, we're just asking for the school name and the ground break day. So what is the school name and what day was ground broken on that school? And based off of your country, we've loaded in the construction supervisors and foremans And again, if your construction supervisor or foreman isn't represented here, you can select other and type in who that construction supervisor or foreman is. Field coordinator, same thing. If your field coordinator isn't represented here, you can select other and type one in. And notice this general information is only coming up when you select, is this your first time filling out the form? So if you say no, we don't ask for that general information every time, just the very first time you're filling out that form. So if you hit yes there, we're going to ask you for the school name, the ground break day, and who the supervisor foreman is, and the field coordinator.
Eric, where's the PLC? Where do they enter the PLC?
Yeah, that's at the bottom of the form.
Oh, it's at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. The next section is the school-specific information. The enrollment before construction and the enrollment after construction.
Please, Eric, excuse me.
Yep.
Before you go ahead, we already hire new staff member, new field coordinator, and those person didn't know or don't know how to fill out this form. And sometimes we need to precise their name. And I already use this form. If I say no, I don't know, but it will be a little bit complicated because I already fill out some KPIs, but I need to define what is the field coordinator for this project. What can I do in this situation?
You have to change it, Abdullah?
So you're saying you have more field coordinators here than what is listed?
Yes.
You can just take other.
Yeah, you can either hit other and type in their name.
Yes, but you say that if at the beginning they ask you if it is your first time you use this form. If you say no, you don't have this option.
Yeah, because you don't have to enter in.
Eric, he wants to be able to change someone because everybody has a whole bunch of new staff members. Mm-hmm. So how could they go in and change?
So what you're asking, like if you've submitted one KPI and then maybe in a later week, it's a different field coordinator or you need to update who you previously put in there, you can come back and just say, yes, this is your first time filling out the form and enter it again. You could enter in another field coordinator and that'll be tracked. That's completely fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm going to be sending, I think almost all of our staff are hired now. There's a few people remaining to be hired. You know, Eric, we're growing school construction by 57%, so we've got a lot of new staff. So I'll give the list of all the new staff and name corrections, Francois, over to Eric, and he can add those in so you don't always have to be putting other.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
Eric?
Yeah.
Aline, so when you said the enrollment after and the enrollment after, I mean before and after, so sometimes we may know the enrollment before the construction, but after, this is a little bit complicated because we have to wait after maybe 1 year to know how many kids will be enrolled.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So you don't necessarily have to enter this in every single time. I think, let me see. I don't know if that pops up based off another response. I'll figure that out. But you don't have to, if you don't have that information, you don't have to enter it. So this field is here. You're probably not going to be able to enter that until after the finishing completion date. You won't have that information, so you don't have to enter that until you actually have it. It's not a requirement, and the same with before construction. If that number changes,
before construction we can have it.
Yep.
Because when we go for that selection, we know already how many kids are there in the school, and also at the school year beginning, we know how many kids there are. But after the construction, we have to wait for the new year to start.
Yeah.
I mean, in some countries, kids can enroll whenever they want. So what we're trying to measure here is if the kids enroll. So if your enrollment is the same before and after, then you just put the same number. But if,
Okay.
you know, especially like with the out of school child program, I know, like, for example, in Haiti, they're negotiating with the teachers to allow some of the kids back into school during the school year. So if it changes, this is just so we can measure, does it change right after construction? And then, you know, our other monitoring and evaluation where we look at the next school year, that'll be something different. So you may just enter the same number.
Okay. Makes sense.
Good question. So the next group of questions are related to the number of teachers in the school and number of grades. So we're looking just for numbers here again, not anything spelled out, actual numbers. So this might be 12 or this might be 2. Whatever that number is, you can go ahead and put these in for each. Number of preschool grades, number of primary grades. Whatever those are, we're just looking for the actual numbers. And again, if it isn't specific to your school, if all these numbers don't make sense for your school, maybe there aren't any middle school grades or any high school grades, you can either enter in 0 or leave it blank. The next section is the covenant. And this shows up based off of a question that we ask you above. Has the covenant been signed? And you only have to enter this once. If you say yes, this section will pop up and you can enter in those number of signatures. So if you don't need to enter that again, you can just go ahead and not even select that one or say no. But if you've already entered it, don't feel like you have to come back and enter it every single time you submit a KPI. If you've entered it once, just either leave this one blank or hit no. But if you do need to enter it, hit yes and come down and enter in those covenant numbers.
And when you guys are signing the covenant, you need to do it in a way so that you can count the number of men and women. Either it's on separate papers or separate columns. But you should know that. I know in some countries you're already doing it and some you're not. So please be mindful of that.
So the next section is the project leadership committee. And this is based off of this question up here at the top. Do you need to add members from your project leadership committee? If you hit yes, it's going to allow you to enter in project leadership committee members. So maybe 1 week on your KPIs, you've had maybe 4 project leadership committee members. Maybe the next week you have 6. And so you might need to add in 2 more. So you can hit yes if you need to add in more project leadership committee members. If you've already entered all the project leadership committee members in previous weeks, you can hit no and you don't have to enter in any new project leadership committee members. But if you do need to enter in any new ones, hit yes, and you can fill it out in this section. So what you'll be doing is selecting their gender, male or female, what their leadership role was, and their name, so their full name, what they go by. And so if you've entered in, the male or female and enter their role and their name, I'm going to go ahead and put in mine just as a sample here. I'll be the treasurer. And to add in another another community member, you just click this box or this button right here. And you can go ahead and add in as many leadership committee members as you need. So maybe you'll enter in your president. We'll enter in Roseanne here. You can enter in as many as you need to enter for that week. Maybe it's the first week and you're entering in all the PLC members at once, or maybe it's a later week and you've just had more PLC members join the committee, and you can just enter in those people that have joined that you haven't already entered.
And if they don't have a specific leadership role, because we have leadership roles and then we just have regular members, they just leave it blank?
Yeah, they can either leave it blank, or if they have a role that isn't listed here, they can select other. But if they do not have any role at all, they don't have a title on the leadership committee, you can just leave it blank. If it's not one of these roles represented, you can hit other. But if they don't, yeah, go ahead and just leave it blank and just put in their gender and their name.
So please do not create a role called committee member. I've seen that on some of the KPIs, but we're assuming that everyone is a committee member if you put their name there. So I think the Project Leadership Committee has created the most confusion on some of these forms.
And we can come back to questions about it too if you have any more. So the next section are your actual KPIs for that week. These are everything up above are information really specific to the village and tracking who the PLC members are and covenants signed and number of teachers and all those specific things. Volunteer workdays section are all your details specific to that week for your KPIs. So what's the first day of that work week is what we're asking here. So what was the first day of that week that you started working on this project, on this village for these KPIs? Then we asked the week number. So what number of the project is this? Is this week number 1, 2, 3, whatever that number is, whatever week number it is, go ahead and enter that. And how many days did you work that week? Was it 6, 5, 7? And Roseanne, I think the question that is confusing are these two, and I should just go ahead and remove these, the volunteer workday standard and the daily standard. We don't need to ask those ones. Or should these remain options for people to select 12, 20, or 30 for the workday standard?
No, let's program them for the specific country.
Yep.
And then you're right, that's the problem. You know, Alus, I was telling you, I don't know if you're still on the phone, but I was telling you that we're usually over 100% in Mali, and it seems like we have KPIs for just one day. So yeah, let's remove those, and we'll pre-program them in for the specific countries, and then all of that could be very easy. So you guys, when you do actual men and actual women, that's the number for the entire week.
Rick, I mean, yeah, these two questions, what's the difference between those two questions?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just remove them right now. So I'm going to take them out so they're not there. They're numbers that we use for different calculations for your KPIs that you're working on for the different reports. And they're not questions that you need to be providing us the data. We'll do that for you and take it out. So I'm going to take it out right now just so it's not confusing anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Alus, what your team needs to be aware of, or when it says actual men and actual women, that's the number of men and women for the entire week. So what will happen is if you say like 70 men and 80 women, what we're going to be, you know, when I look at the KPIs, I'll look at the number of days. Obviously, let's say there was 5 days in that week. Multiply it by 30 for Mali, I'm looking at 150. So if you had 70 men and 80 women, then that means that you were 100% of standard and you made the goal. So just make sure that your team is doing it for the entire week and not just 1 or 2 days. And I think those two questions are what were confusing you.
You're right. You're right. Thank you.
And I'm just updating it right now, and I'm going to show you in just a second what that looks like.
Okay, cool.
And while Eric is doing that, what this means is that I know some days you don't have an expectation to have a lot of people on the work site. But what we're going to do, we're going to keep one standard for the entire project. So I know some of you during Groundbreak, you have hundreds of people out there every day, even though your standard is 30. So we're not going to increase the standard and we're not going to decrease the standard. And then over the duration of the project, it should kind of even out. So your standards will always be the same.
Great. I'm glad we got that solved, but I went ahead and removed those fields and updated the actual men and actual women. So again, like Roseanne said, we're looking for the total number of men and total number of women for the entire week. So whatever week you're entering here, list the total number of men and the total number of women. And again, that's a number. So, you know, maybe it's 124, whatever that is, it's the actual number, total number of men and total number of women for that specific week.
Yeah, that really makes more sense. Looks much clearer now.
Yeah, so thank you for that feedback.
You're welcome.
The next section is the timeline. So what number of days are you ahead of schedule or behind schedule? So the positive numbers are ones ahead of schedule, and the negative numbers mean that you're behind schedule. So if you're 6 days ahead of schedule, put in the positive number 6. If you're 6 days behind schedule, put in -6. So we're just wondering here how many days you are ahead or behind the project timeline.
How about if you're just on schedule?
If you're just on schedule, you can go ahead and leave it just blank. There's only numbers if so. Yeah, that's a good question, because if you put 1 in, that means you're 1 day ahead of schedule or 1 day behind schedule. If you are right on schedule, go ahead and leave it blank. And I might actually just add in one there for you just to say that. Actually, I'll do that and I'll show you what that looks like. That's good feedback. Okay, everyone still with me? We're gonna go back to Senegal here. Sounds like you are.
Yeah, so, I'm here.
So again, this plus or minus is also brought on by what the benchmark is. So what your benchmark is, and again, these benchmarks are set up per country. So if we have Senegal selected, if you're a week 1 and your benchmark is supposed to be foundation, but maybe in week 1 you've done 2 weeks of work and you've actually are at the grade beam, you can put in that maybe you're 3 days ahead of schedule. Maybe you're on week 3 and you're right on schedule. Now that's an option. You can just go ahead and say on schedule, and that means that you're not ahead or behind schedule, you're right on schedule.
Hey, Eric, for like when I'm reporting out the KPIs, I report them out only in numbers. So I wonder if we should put 0 there so that when it calculates that on schedule doesn't screw us up.
Yep, and I already did that on the back end. I have this going as 0.
Okay, oh, awesome, thank you.
So the next section is the weekly attendance. And these are the weekly attendance for just the boys and the girls in the community. Am I correct on that, Roseanne? It's just the actual children, the boys and girls in the community.
Yeah, and maybe we should put some note in there that this is just like a sample day or an average. So it's not like the total of weekly.
That is a good feedback. I'm going to go ahead and put that in right now.
And remember, everyone, we talked about this before, and as long as you're doing it consistently within your country, it's fine. I know that some people are, going into the classroom and counting the boys and the girls a couple times and taking an average. Sometimes you're just checking, like in the middle of the day. So however you're going to do it, but just make sure that you do it consistently.
Sorry for the delay. Just a second. Let me go ahead and refresh. Okay. So I just went ahead and put in those descriptions for you. Either it's the daily average or a sample from one day this week for both the boys and the girls. And again, you can just put in that number. The PLC activity is we're asking for the attendance of the male members. So if you've entered in 6 male PLC members, out of those 6, how many attended? Did all 6, 5, 4, whatever that number is? The same with female PLC members. So these first 2 questions are only for those official PLC members that you have entered, not any other community members that have shown up to the meeting. For those types of individuals, you can go ahead and enter in the non-PLC attendees here, but these first 2 questions are only for the male or female official PLC members. So out of the 6 male you've entered, 6 attended, maybe 6 females out of your 6, and then maybe 3 other in general entered or attended the meeting. And then this last question is the number of PLC meetings that were held that week. So the very last question of the KPI form is comments on the project. And you guys have been giving some really insightful information here. It's really helpful not only to, I know, your team, but also to the Trek team and to the development team to know what's going on with the community. If a Trek team has visited the school or community in the first 2 weeks, and then maybe you're on week 15 or 16 and you're still giving comments on the project, we can share those sort of details with the donors or the people that went on Trek. So it's helpful to, I know, your team just to be able to track the success of the project, but it's also great to show the status of the project and how it's going to everyone else that's interested in it. So keep on putting insightful information in here, how the project is going, what's going on with it. Maybe it's high or low volunteer work days. Maybe certain PLC members are missing, or a meeting went a certain way. But what made this week stand out? So
Eric.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Danilo. I have a question for the boys and girls attendance. You have to put the number of boys and girls. What if they're on vacation? Can we have an option in there that says vacations? Or should we leave it in blank?
If they're on vacation or they're out of school and they're not available, just go ahead and leave it blank.
Okay.
And when you say things great question, and other cases where people have done this and left it blank, they've put in the comments on the project, the students are on vacation or not in school or something like that, to explain why it's blank, why you aren't entering in boys or girls for that week.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. And so you can go, if maybe you're a couple of weeks behind on your KPIs, and again, just this section, the volunteer workdays are the numbers specific to that week and are your KPIs for that week. Everything else are details specific to the community profile or the community, but these are your week-to-week KPIs. So if you entered in so maybe I'm catching up for February, I can go ahead and do, okay, maybe the week of February 2nd was my first week, and I did 6 days, and I fill all this out. I can go ahead and click add another week to get caught up. And maybe if we're using this as an example and it's the 27th, you can go ahead and do, okay, now the week starting the 9th, that's week number 2. You can keep adding in more weeks, as many as you have that information for. So we've done the 2nd and the 9th. So now we're starting on the week of the 16th, and that's week number 3. And you can fill out all those details for each one of those weeks. You don't have to come back to the form to enter each one. You can just hit add another week, and you can add in as many weeks as you have data for, or if you need to get caught up. Does that make sense about adding in multiple weeks at once, or is it a little bit confusing?
Aline.
Hi, you still there?
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you slightly. Your connection must be a little slow right now, but if you go ahead and ask, I can probably make it out.
Oh, my connection is not that stable, but let me try.
No,
So
you're
for
great now.
the
Yep, you're good.
For the PLC meetings, we have this problem in Burkina Faso. So under the concession, where there's no trouble on the connection, so people don't attend the PLC meeting.
Sorry, Eileen, I'm not able to make out what you're saying. It's slowing down a little bit. But you can.
Maybe she could chat it or something.
Yeah, you can chat it. In your meeting option, there should be a button that says chat, and you can type in your question underneath that chat button, and that way I can see what you're saying.
So I was talking about the PLC meetings.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was talking about the PLC meetings. In some of our villages in Burkina Faso, where there's no problem on the worksite, people are coming normally every day. So people just do not attend the meetings, they do not come.
So if there's no meeting, Roseanne, is there something that you would like them to just leave it blank, or do you want them to describe that in the comments for why there wasn't a meeting for that week?
Yeah, and that should definitely be the exception and not the rule, especially because, sorry if you can hear Boomer barking, but especially now that we have this new initiative with out-of-school children, and every single week that you are having meetings, you should be working with the PLC in order to figure out how the children who are not in school are going to be at school. So if people don't come because the construction is strong, then you need to change something in the way that you are implementing the methodology. So what you would do is put in 0 meetings and 0 attendance, and your KPIs, your performance, both you as a country and that field coordinator, will be low if we consistently don't have meetings. I understand sometimes if a meeting doesn't happen, especially if there's a funeral in the community or something, but we all know that the PLC is a very, very strong part of our methodology. And if people don't find it valuable, I suggest that you look very closely at what you're doing in the PLC, so that you can change what you're doing so it is valuable. And Aline, we can talk about this, or if people have questions, if this is an issue in other countries, we've got a country director meeting, IP leadership meeting on Monday, and we could put this on the agenda if people want to talk about it more.
Yeah, that would be good, because we sometimes go to the village, even organize some meeting with the entire community to let them know that the meetings are really important and they should be attended every week. And they said, no, we do not have anything to talk about. And I said, well, we have the Educate the Child program to talk about. And we need your, your involvement in this program. But anyway, after we leave the village, people, they do not attend the meeting.
Yeah, let's talk about it, because
Okay.
What concerns me, as you said, after you leave the village, people aren't attending the meeting. A build on staff member should be at the meeting. So I'll put this on our agenda for Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So that is actually all we ask on the KPI form. The main purpose of doing it week to week is having you enter this volunteer workday section. Again, all these questions up at the top have you give us those other details about the covenant, about general information about the village, who the construction supervisor is, when ground was broke, all those different things. But if you've already entered in that data once, you don't have to enter it in every time. So if you don't need to do these things, if you don't need to change the ground break day or enter in field coordinators or construction supervisors, if you don't need to add in PLC members, if finishing is not complete yet, you don't need to fill those out. You can say no, or you can leave those sections blank. If you already submitted the covenant numbers, you don't need to do it again. And so if you don't have to do any of those things, if you've already done them before, or you're not to that point of the project yet, all you need to enter is who you are, your country, your community name. And again, the community name comes from whether or not you submitted a community profile. And then if you don't have these details, or you've already filled them out once, you can just come right to the volunteer workday section for that week and enter in your KPIs for that specific week. And hit submit. And you'll get a thank you for submitting your response, and that's all you have to do. So I'll jump back to the form and open it up for questions about the KPIs or the community profile. I'm free to stay on the line for the next 15 minutes, but then I'll have to jump off. And if we have time, we can jump into all the different reporting. But Roseanne and I might just set up all the different standards offline and have those emailed out to you on a regular basis for all your different countries and communities you're working on, and for all the different staff members that you want specific data for as well. So we can definitely get those set up for you and have them sent out to you on a regular basis. And I'll talk to Roseanne about that. But do any of you have any questions about the KPIs or community profile before I jump into some of the reporting? Okay.
Hello.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question. This is Danilo from Nicaragua. I wonder, how often do you update the community list? I mean, I'm just saying this because we send the community profile for Valle de los Condegas in El Cuajinotega, and the fuel coordinator haven't updated, the KPIs because the community is not in this list. We couldn't find community in there.
And what community was that?
Valle de los Condegas.
Yeah, that must be a specific outlier case. Usually they're entered within a couple minutes of being entered, but I'll go back and check and make sure all of them are entered. But that's a really good question. It doesn't happen automatically. I go in and enter them, but usually I'm on it and I enter it in within a couple minutes of you entering. And if there isn't a community in there that's listed, just feel free to send me an email and tell me what community is missing. So if you've entered in a community profile and it's not showing up there yet, just send me an email and I'll get it entered right away. I'll find that record and I'll get it entered for you. So I'll
okay. Thanks.
And make sure it's entered. Really good question.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other KPIs or community profile questions? Okay, so I'm just going to show you what these records look like in Salesforce and how we work with them, and then we will set up all the different reporting mailings out that get mailed out to you on a regular basis. We'll set up those standards and how often they get sent to you and all those different details. But I'm going to jump into Salesforce. So here I have a record of Las Victorias in Nicaragua, and this is one KPI. This is one KPI record for this village that was submitted. And so you can see it lists all the different data that you've submitted, but also we have formulas built in order to pull in the data we need for the enhanced KPIs or for the overall summary reports. So you submit in details like the week number, the number of days work, and then we have built in already, what that volunteer workday standard is, and we'll need to get this corrected for all the different countries. So 12 might actually not be right here. But all these different other numbers like the weekly standard, the total number of volunteer days, percent of women against the standard, the total number percent of standard, average number of volunteers per day. Based off the data you're submitting to us, it allows us to calculate these different numbers that we need for these reports. Again, we have the timeline, so what your benchmark and actual is, and whether or not you're ahead or behind schedule. Your weekly attendance for boys and girls, and your PLC activity. So your number of meetings, non-PLC attendees, attendance of male PLC members, female, what that PLC standard is. So 12 is the standard for that PLC, and what the total number of attendance is. The attendance against the standard, so that's taking in the total number of male and female together and comparing it against the standard. So for this record, you're at 100% for your attendance against the standard, and the attendance of women for that week. So out of your 12 attendees, 6 were women, so that pulls up 50%. So based off of everything that you're submitting here in the volunteer, So everything you're submitting here on the volunteer workdays, that gets submitted into Salesforce and creates a record for each one of your KPIs. And what happens with these is these roll up into a record for the community itself. So this community profile record gets created when you submit the community profile. So this one was submitted by Pedro in Nicaragua for Las Victorias. And what it does is it brings in all the different community profile information questions that we're asking, all the basic village information, school information, the interviews, the construction details. And then we're able to see all of your different PLC members that you submitted. And this is a really good example of submitting PLC members and who they are and their leadership roles. We're
yeah,
also,
can you go back to that PLC?
yeah.
Yeah, so Danilo, you and your team in the future, instead of creating that extra title called work group leader, you know, we assume that everyone is a work group leader or a community member. So what I really only want to see is the president, chairperson, the secretary, and the vice president. So then we can make Salesforce tell us, from this, we have, well, there's a male president, there's a male vice president, and where's the other person? Oh, the secretary is a female. So then I would say that from this community, 33% are women, and so we would know that that one is falling short of our 50% standard. But if we have those work group leaders or committee members, then we can't easily figure out the leadership roles for men or women.
Okay.
But otherwise, other than that, if you just leave that role blank, that'll come in as blank. Everything else you're doing is great. You've entered the name, the gender, and their role, and so that's really good for this example. So also on this record, we're able to track all the different KPIs. So last week was the 19th, the week of the 19th, and it was week number 1. So I would assume soon you'll be entering in week number 2 KPIs. And as you enter that for Las Victorias, it'll be tracked here. And so all these different numbers that we're looking for in these different overall reports, the volunteer days, the timeline, the PLC numbers, we're getting those based off of the KPIs you're submitting and also the community profiles. And they're all represented here on the record in Salesforce. And this is just for one community. But the way the reports are set up is they're set up for just the country specific, and all these numbers will be pulled. So it'll list all the different schools for each country, or all the different villages and what those different averages are for each. And for those enhanced KPIs, you'll be able to pull up, or you'll be emailed a report just for that school that looks just like this, that pulls in all those different numbers. And those are all fed into Salesforce from your form. Those numbers are calculated, and then they're given back to you in these different reports that we have set up. So I know that was a quick overview of what it looks like in Salesforce, but do any of you have any questions about the transfer of data, or how this is set up in Salesforce, or maybe how you get access to this data? Like I said, we're going to be emailing you these reports, all the different types of ones that we have set up that you can, one, have for your own way to manage your staff, but also reports that you can specifically share with your staff as well. So there'll be a series of different reports that you can share with your staff, whether it's, you know, just the overall status of what's going on in Nicaragua and all the different schools, like this report, or, you know, it's really specific to the village or the community that you're working on, and showing all those different KPIs and all those different metrics that we're tracking. So I just have a few minutes before I have to jump off for another meeting, but any questions at all about anything that I just showed you all, any of the KPIs or community profile or reports or Salesforce, or any confusion or questions or feedback at all?
My question, this is